All right, welcome in everyone. Today we're going on a deep dive with Helen Sharman.
Helen Sharman.
Yeah, the first British astronaut.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We've got some really cool stuff to look at her biography and even a podcast episode outline about her, all about her mental resilience. It's really interesting.
So what, how she handled the pressure of space?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
get this, before space, she was a chemist, but not just any chemist.
Okay.
She worked for the Mars Chocolate Company. Can you believe that?
The Mars company, the
Oh.
candy.
Isn't that wild?
That's pretty cool, I guess.
And she beat out 13,000 other people to get on the mission.
13,000. Wow.
Talk about dedication, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm really interested in is what her journey can teach us about, achieving goals, using visualization, being adaptable, all that. And that's where you come in. I'm so curious, what really grabs you about Helen Sharman's story?
I think what I find most fascinating is that she's not your typical astronaut, Her path to space, it wasn't straight out of a textbook.
Not at all, yeah.
She was born in Sheffield, studied chemistry, worked as a research technologist. It's not the usual astronaut story. I mean, you don't really think chocolate chemist and then astronaut, do you?
Not really, no. So how did she make that leap from chocolate to, space?
It all started with something called Project Juno.
Project Juno.
Yeah, it was a British mission. They wanted to send a Brit into space, you see.
Oh, I see.
And they opened applications, and somehow, from all those people, 13,000 Helen Sharman was chosen. Just incredible.
13,000 people. What were they even looking for? It couldn't have just been smarts,
Yeah,
right?
oh, definitely not. They wanted someone brilliant, yeah. But more than that, they needed someone incredibly resilient.
Right.
Someone who could handle the pressure cooker of space.
Ah, makes sense.
They had psychological tests, medical checks, technical exams, you name it, all designed to find someone who could not only excel, but thrive under intense pressure.
Wow. Okay, so picture this. May 18th, 1991. Sharman blasts off aboard the Soyuz TM-12, heading for the Mir space station.
Mir, the Russian one.
Right. This wasn't just a space flight. It was huge. What made this mission so important, historically speaking?
Well, for one, she was the first British person ever in space.
That's amazing.
And not just that, she became the first woman to ever set foot on Mir.
Wow.
It really broke boundaries, showed that anyone could journey into space.
So I'm imagining her up there making history. It must have been incredible.
Yeah.
But what did she actually do on Mir? It couldn't have all been sightseeing, right?
Oh, no, definitely not. She was there to do some really important scientific experiments.
Such as?
Her focus was mainly on protein crystal growth and how plants behave in microgravity.
Interesting.
But it wasn't just theoretical stuff. This research actually had the potential to benefit us back on Earth.
Wait, really? How?
So the protein crystal stuff was particularly important for drug design.
Ah.
You see, microgravity allows them to grow bigger, more uniform crystals, which helps scientists understand how to create more effective medications.
That's amazing.
And the plant research was about figuring out how life works in space. Important for long missions, maybe even living in space someday.
So she wasn't just an astronaut. She was pushing the boundaries of science. But here's what gets me. Even after coming back to Earth, Sharman didn't stop there.
You're right. It was like her journey was just beginning.
What do you mean?
She became a huge advocate for science, for communication and education, especially inspiring the next generation.
To reach for the stars?
Literally, especially young people, particularly girls, to get into STEM fields. And her message, well, it carried real weight because she actually lived it. She wasn't just talking about science, she'd embodied it in the most extraordinary way possible.
It's that living it part that's so powerful. And it brings us to those themes of mental resilience we talked about earlier. Reading about space is one thing, experiencing it is a whole other level. What can we learn from Sharman about setting big goals, seemingly impossible goals, and actually reaching them?
You've hit the nail on the head. It's not just about space, it's about human potential. Our ability to set those daring goals, and even when the odds are stacked against us, achieve them.
And I imagine it starts with setting the right goal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need to talk about SMART goals.
SMART goals.
Yeah, it stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Now, I'm not saying Sharman sat down with a checklist, but she followed these principles throughout her whole journey. Becoming an astronaut was her big dream, but to get there, she had to break it down.
Into smaller steps.
Exactly. Each step had to be specific, something she could actually work towards. Measurable, so she could see her progress. Relevant to her ultimate goal, of course.
Yeah.
And importantly, time-bound. Gave her that sense of urgency, kept her moving forward. Even in training, she used this approach without realizing it, taking those huge, complex tasks and breaking them down into smaller, more manageable pieces.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Effective and empowering.
Yeah.
But there's another part of her story that fascinates me. Visualization. The podcast outline mentions how she'd imagine herself succeeding, even during the toughest training. How does visualization actually work?
It's a really powerful tool, you know. It's actually used in therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, to help people mentally rehearse success. Like watching a movie in your mind where you're the star, achieving your goals.
So it's more than just wishing. It's about creating a mental roadmap to success.
You got it. And there's actual science behind it. When you visualize, you're priming your brain for that outcome, reducing anxiety, boosting confidence, strengthening your belief in yourself.
Like giving your brain a sneak peek of the finish line. Must be pretty motivating, especially when you hit obstacles. And speaking of, space travel's full of the unexpected, right? Being able to adapt quickly, that must be crucial.
It is, absolutely. And Sharman is like the definition of adaptability in action. Think about it. High-pressure environment, millions of miles from home, things changing constantly. But she stayed calm, solved problems under pressure, adjusted to all those unexpected challenges. A masterclass in adaptability.
Okay, let's bring this back down to Earth for a sec. How can we, regular people, cultivate that same adaptability that Sharman showed in space?
Well, it starts with our mindset. Instead of fearing the unexpected, we can see challenges as chances to grow. Stepping outside our comfort zones, embracing change, focusing on solutions.
Not dwelling on the problems.
Exactly. Sharman showed us that adapting isn't just about surviving, it's about thriving, even when things are uncertain.
So it's being flexible, but also mentally and emotionally ready for whatever comes our way. A good lesson for all of us, whether we're aiming for space or just dealing with daily life. But there's so much more to explore about Helen Sharman and her amazing journey. We'll dig deeper into those mental strategies that helped her achieve the extraordinary when we come back.
You know, when we talk about resilience, we often forget about something pretty important.
What's that?
Support systems. We focus so much on individual strength, but even someone as driven as Helen Sharman, she needed people she could rely on, especially with those crazy challenges she faced.
That's a good point. We love the lone hero story, but even astronauts don't go it alone, do they?
Not at all.
So who are the people in Sharman's corner, her support system?
Well, her family, for sure. They were crucial.
Yeah.
Believed in her even when it seemed impossible. That's a bedrock of support right there.
Makes sense.
And then there were her trainers and the other cosmonauts at Star City.
Oh, where they train.
Right. They went through all that intense training together, the highs, the lows. They shared it all.
Built some strong bonds, I bet.
Absolutely. A real camaraderie, you know? Something that went way beyond the mission itself.
Yeah, like a space family almost.
Exactly. United by a common goal, pushing human limits. But we can't forget the people behind the scenes, too, you know?
The unsung heroes.
The scientists, engineers, support staff, everyone who worked so hard to make the mission happen.
It takes a village, right?
It really does. All those different people, different skills, working together. It's a reminder that achieving something extraordinary, it often takes a whole team.
So Sharman's story is about individual resilience, but also the power of teamwork and collaboration. It's like we're all connected, and the support we give each other, it can make all the difference. Okay, switching gears a bit. I've always wondered about the mental side of space travel. It must be so isolating, so disorienting to be up there so far from Earth.
Oh, absolutely. The psychological impact is huge.
Yeah.
Think about it. Confined space, far from everything familiar, sights, sounds, smells, everything's different. And there's that constant awareness of the risks, the danger, the isolation, millions of miles from home.
Wow. It takes real mental strength to handle all that.
Yeah.
What did Sharman do to stay mentally healthy during her mission?
One thing was routine.
Keeping a routine, even in space.
Exactly. Even with days and nights blurring together, she stuck to a schedule. Sleep, exercise, work, all of it. Created a sense of normalcy, gave her some control in this extraordinary situation.
That makes a lot of sense. What else?
She also made sure to stay connected to people back home, talking to them, seeing them as much as she could.
A little reminder of Earth.
Exactly. And she found comfort in the simple things, too. Music, books, just looking out the window at Earth.
Oh, wow. That view.
Right. Those moments of peace, of joy, they were crucial. A way to recharge mentally and emotionally.
Even in space, self-care is important.
Yeah.
Okay, there's one more thing I want to ask about, something that's always fascinated me. The overview effect.
Ah, yes, the overview effect.
It's that shift in perspective, right? It's seeing Earth from space and realizing how fragile it is, how connected everything
You
is.
got it. It changes how you see the world, how you see humanity. All those conflicts down here, they seem so insignificant from up there.
I can only imagine. Did Sharman ever talk about experiencing this?
Mm.
And how did it change her when she was back on Earth?
Oh, she did. She talked about it beautifully. The awe, the wonder, the feeling of interconnectedness. Like all of humanity, we're on this journey together, sharing this one precious planet.
It's like seeing Earth without borders, without those divisions we create.
Exactly. And that experience stayed with her.
Yeah,
She became a big advocate for protecting the environment, for cooperation between nations, for peace.
makes sense. Seeing Earth like that, it must have been profound.
It really was. It's like sometimes we need to step outside of our usual viewpoint, literally, to gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the universe.
I like that. And that's what Helen Sharman's story does for us, isn't it? Encourages us to push past those limitations, to embrace the unknown, to reach for the impossible.
That's it, exactly. And it's such an important message, especially now when the world feels so full of limitations.
It's easy to get discouraged.
But Sharman reminds us that we're capable of so much more than we think.
It's really inspiring. I mean, she was just an ordinary person, a chemist from Sheffield. If she could go from making chocolate to orbiting Earth,
Mhm.
what could the rest of us achieve?
Yeah, and what's great is she kind of gives us a roadmap, for how to approach those big goals, break them down, build that mental toughness. And remember, we don't have to do it all alone.
It's not just about dreaming big, it's about having a plan, the grit to see it through,
Right.
and leaning on those support systems. It brings us back to those key ideas: goal setting, visualization, adaptability.
Mhm.
They're more than just words. They're tools we can all use to navigate life, reach our full potential.
Exactly. Goal setting, it gives you direction, that target to aim for. Visualization
Yeah.
is like mental rehearsal, reducing anxiety, building confidence. And adaptability, that's what lets you roll with the punches, see challenges as chances to grow, not setbacks.
It's like having a mental toolbox equipped for anything life throws at you, not just to survive, but to really thrive, even when things get tough.
Love that analogy. And the best part, anyone can use this toolbox. It's not just for astronauts. We can all develop these skills, these tools, and use them on our own journeys.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it. If Helen Sharman, a chemist from Sheffield, could go from chocolate to space, what could we achieve if we embraced these ideas? What if we dared to believe, really believe, that those seemingly impossible dreams, maybe they are within reach?
That's the question I want our listeners to think about. What's that one dream you've been putting off? The one you thought was too big, too unrealistic? What if you applied Sharman's lessons to it? Broke it down, visualized success, and embraced the challenges head on?
What would happen if you gave yourself permission to believe that maybe, just maybe, that impossible dream is actually possible? We encourage you to sit with that for a bit, explore these ideas, and who knows, share those dreams with the world. You might just inspire someone else along the way.
Absolutely. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into the incredible life of Helen Sharman, a true testament to what we humans are capable of.
Thanks for joining us on this journey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep dreaming big, and keep reaching for the stars.